I can go down the list. Like, there's a lot of teams that just don't pay tax. So I don't want to say that it's changed the landscape to the point of, things are so hard now, because there's a lot of complaints about that. Yet we've had a ton of trades all year. We've already had 4 or 5 trades. I think we're seeing very fluid activity. We're seeing a lot of teams that are in these upper tiers, like the Knicks and some of these other teams that are making moves that are in restrictive territory, but are able to. Even the Lakers have been very restricted. They just got Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton, et cetera. So, but I do think from the Cam Johnson point of view, for one, he's like a $27 million player, even though he doesn't look like it because of his incentives. And you have to count those incentives against your aprons.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he's actually more expensive than you might think. And then I would suggest you take a look at his games played per year. It's not great. He's like a 50 game a year guy. And is he having a wonderful season because he's on a team with no responsibility in terms of winning, where he can just go out and ball, and if he sits a game, no one even notices? He's having a great year. He's a nice player, but I wonder if he's where I would go if I was Golden State, just based on the injury history. Jimmy, at least Jimmy has gotten a team to the finals. You're going to have to pay Jimmy immediately, and he's going to want 3 years. So it may or may not make sense, but at least what Jimmy can take you to. But Jimmy has also hurt a lot, and he's about 35 or so. So I don't see a perfect solution for the Warriors. There is no perfect. I would say that the trade deadline for most teams is a menu of yuck. You just pick the least awful option, or you do nothing. And sometimes doing nothing isn't going to satisfy the owners of the team, isn't going to satisfy the fan base. So you make the best deal available that you can live with. You just don't get to pick and choose everything you want, because that's just not what other teams are willing to do.
Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report, with us here, 95.7 The Game, Willard and Dibbs. Whether it's Cam Johnson, and our focus is kind of on him today, but in general, teams like Brooklyn who might be willing to deal, as you know, we get a lot of callers who are like, give him this and give him that. I wonder if you could speak to this. Would a team like that essentially want expiring contracts and draft capital, and that's it? Like, they don't really want good players necessarily in return. Is that accurate?
I mean, it could be. They may want a Kuminga type, because they have. If you look at this summer, and it is a reason why the Warriors could also choose to keep Kuminga. No one has money. The Nets have money. The Wizards have money. And then after that, maybe the Spurs or the Pistons have 20-ish. Those only 2 teams have enough to give Kuminga the kind of offer. And the Wizards are not in a position to make Kuminga the kind of offer based on where they're at. They're just not going to – that's not what the Wizards going to do. So really the only team that might go after Kuminga who can actually get him is the Nets. And so then from that point of view, if the Nets don't want him, and if the Warriors negotiate that now and realize they don't want him, they should feel pretty comfortable that they'll be able to re-sign him with all the leverage, or maybe he takes a 1-year deal, which is a qualifying offer amount, which is a very low deal, which doesn't make sense from my point of view. If I'm Kuminga, I wouldn't want to risk that. I would want to find a compromise. Or if you know that the Nets are really interested, now the Warriors are like, okay, we're probably going to lose him, or they're going to make him an offer we don't want to match, so you might as well trade him. So I think that's the crux of it. And then if you know that they don't want him, well, then fine. They're going to want draft capital. They're going to want contracts that don't go on too long. But I don't think that's 100% prohibitive, because you have small contracts that can be multiple year that maybe aren't as offensive. So obviously Gary Payton II and I have to think about it. They can't get Dennis back because they sent him to the Warriors in the first place. So that wouldn't be legal. But Looney is on an expiring. And then, Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson, specifically Buddy. Buddy's contract is guaranteed at $9 million next year, but the next year it's a very low guarantee. It's a very team-friendly contract. That kind of is the exception of the rule. Could I see the Nets being willing to take on Buddy in a complex deal that got them enough? Probably so. Or maybe reroute him to a third team. I try not to think in terms of just 2 teams anymore. It used to be 10, 15 years ago. I'd come up with a 3-team deal, and I talked to an executive, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're being too aggressive." I'm like, that's not realistic. And nowadays, it's really not a requirement, but it's really a necessity. If anything, these new rules have sort of increased the volume of multi-team trades just to make stuff legal under these complex parameters.
Yeah, speaking of multi-team deals, I would imagine any Jimmy Butler deal is going to be that. How do you see that playing out? Obviously, a big factor in that is Bradley Beal's no-trade clause. It seems like the Suns are maybe the most motivated team in trying to get Jimmy Butler, but Bradley Beal has to make that work. How do you see the Jimmy Butler situation unfolding?
Well, I mean, just find me a home for Bradley Beal, and then we can talk. And I could suggest maybe Chicago, if they got out of Zach LaVine, and they could say, okay, it's relatively comparable, but all Bradley Beal has to do is say, I don't want to go to Chicago, and then it's dead. And so from the point of view of obstruction, maybe the Suns getting Jimmy Butler is a long shot at this point. Because it has the most obvious no. It just takes a no from any party. You do a two-team, 3-team, 4-team trade, and it gets very complex, and you just have one no that can blow things up. Well, this is a big one. Maybe he would go to the Bucks because you have a chance to compete with Giannis and Dame, but at the same time, I don't know that they want to make that change. So, and then also, I think the Bucks, if they could get Jimmy, they would get Jimmy over Beal in the first place. So why would they help the Suns get Beal, or rather Jimmy, and take Beal when they would rather have Jimmy? So it gets very complicated. And again, it's a deadline. You have a bunch of people all across the league who are competing against each other. You have ownership groups that run these teams that are also divided and are not always on the same page as their leadership. It gets so hard to get a deal across. And then when you have 4 or 5 teams and you have Bradley Beal who can just say no, I wouldn't say that the Suns are the likely outcome. I know they want him. I know Jimmy wants to go there because they're willing to pay him. But all Bradley Beal has to do is just say, I don't want to do that, and it's over.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. Hey, Eric, this is phenomenal stuff. We love having you on. Thank you so much for doing it today.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report, NBA capologist. Did that take any of the wind out of your sails when he's like Cam Johnson?
Yeah, he's trying to pour cold water on my Cam Johnson idea.
He really did, because he's like a 50-game per year guy.
Well, and he also let us know that his salary, for all intents and purposes, for trying to make a trade work, isn't 22, it's 27.
No problem.
You just got to get $5 million there.
No problem.
But you can make that work.
Sure.
But he was also turned off at Cam Johnson, the player.
Well, okay.
Or his availability, at least.
Yeah, for example, if you do need to get to 27 to make that deal work instead of 22, if Kevon Looney is 8 and Kyle Anderson is 8 and GP2 is 9, you're damn close already right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're
still
damn
make
close.
it work.
Yeah. You put in a TJD or something like that, and you're there. And I do think that again, like if we're going to talk about Jimmy Butler and Zach LaVine, then you can get to 27.
The point of the Cam Johnson, for me at least, is because you get to hold on to Andrew Wiggins.
Hold on to Wiggins, and
Wiggins
Kuminga.
is the big belt.
Exactly.
The big building block for any of the other deals.
Have you looked? Do you know how many times in his career Cam Johnson has played more than 65 games?
Is it only like once?
It is only once, and it was 66. He has never played 70 games in his career. He has never started more than 47 games in his career. And those numbers that we are throwing out there, they're accurate, but Eric is, just to play devil's advocate for a second, these numbers are way higher this year than they have been in some past years. He is 6 points per game higher than what he was just a year ago.
Yeah, he's having a career year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. You could argue breakout, because this is also one of the first times in his career where when he plays, he's a starter. He starts every game. And he has started 35 games this year when we're only about 45 to 50 in. So yeah, this might be the year again. That's not perfect. He's missed a few games, but again, he's playing on a team that's not trying to do anything. You always wonder, how would it look different if you move into a completely different culture?
Yeah, like, do you remember Lauri Markkanen at the end of last year when I remember the conversation in the offseason? I was big on the Warriors trying to acquire Lauri Markkanen, and I ran into a number of people who kept telling me, well, look at how many games he played this past year. I forget how many it was, but he didn't play a full season, and it wasn't particularly close. We forget the Jazz were trying to lose basketball games, and they would hold Lauri Markkanen out for any little minor bump and bruise, and as a result, it looks like he wasn't healthy all year when he never dealt with anything serious.
Yeah, exactly right.
Oh!
Okay, y'all, there it is. That's the sounder. Right now, you need to call the contest line. Hopefully, you've got that keyword in your hip pocket. The contest line, if you don't have that, is 415-523-4652. 415-523-4652. We are releasing the hounds. The first person to call in with the correct keyword on that contest line is in to the knockout tournament coming up on the Chase Center floor Monday, March 3rd. Again, call right now. Contest line 415-523-4652. Best of luck. And if you don't get it this time, your next chance to win is going to be Monday morning with the all-new roast, by the way. All the Joes.
A couple of Joes.
Shaskys and the Spadonis, starting on Monday morning and throughout the week. 8 a.m. hour, noon hour, 4 p.m. hour. That's true every day next week. It's true every day the week after that as well. So we are only a third of the way through our process. This winner that we're about to find out is contestant number 15, and there will be 45 spots given out. So try right now and keep on trying. And thank you so much for listening. We look forward to meeting a handful of you on the Chase Center floor. All right, Grandy in for Dibs. We're brought to you by Fremont Bank, here for you, here for good. Let's circle back to a couple of things. And first of all, it's the idea of how much, as we approach the trade deadline, how much juice is really in the orange this year for the Warriors. But what I know a lot of you really wanted to talk about, and we even got a text, stop throwing Looney into trade machines. He's a champ. Don't do that. And it's like, right, but he's an expiring contract. I know you'd rather give up Buddy Hield, but Looney is much more attractive to an acquiring team. I just think you have to keep that into account. What does the other team want to do? Or else you're not going to be able to get something done. So are you emotionally ready to move on from Kevon Looney, and then alongside that to have some fun in honor of Kevon, your favorite Bay Area athletes who never really did anything statistically great? We'll take calls on all of that. 888-957-9570. This is Willard and Dibs.
Meanwhile, at Xfinity.
Hey, Steve, why are you on the roof?
Product research. We engineered the Xfinity mobile network to have super fast Wi-Fi on the go, plus reliable 5G. I wanted to...
I don't see a perfect solution for the Warriors. There is no perfect. I would say that the trade deadline for most teams is a menu of yuck. You just pick the least awful option, or you do nothing. And sometimes doing nothing isn't going to satisfy the owners of the team, isn't going to satisfy the fan base. So you make the best deal available that you can live with. You just don't get to pick and choose everything you want, because that's just not what other teams are willing to do.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs.
It's a great question.
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. And that's a great question.
On 95.7 The Game.
I want to stir everybody back up. I want to and by the way, let's get us the name. Get us the name of who won when you have it. Get us the name of who won. Somebody won. Ahmed in San Leandro. What's up, Ahmed?
Congrats, Ahmed.
How's your Friday going?
We'll see you March 3rd.
You balling on the Chase Center floor like a G. Let's go, Ahmed. We're going to meet you there.
Can't wait.
And then Granny's going to try to knock you out.
Hell yeah, I am.
Granny said knock you out.
Do or do not. There is no try.
My favorite listener is the one who's calling the contest line right now. You're my favorite listener. I was just like, did I win?
Try again Monday.
You're about 8 minutes behind, but that's okay. Yeah,
you've got 30 more chances.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Every day next week, every day the week after that, morning, 8 a.m., noon, literally noon, and night, 4 o'clock hour, is when you're going to have a chance every single day. So thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate your efforts because we want to meet you there, and it really, really is fun. But I want to stir everybody back up on where we are in time and space with Warrior basketball. There's a lot going on. Obviously, in 2 hours, they're going to play the Phoenix Suns.
Pretty big game.
It's a huge game because the Suns are right there, a half game ahead of the Warriors in the standings. And it's also another opportunity to sort of like make the fans and, quite frankly, the front office feel like this is being legitimized. Like, okay, if you're going to beat the Thunder and the Suns in back-to-back games, you're showing life. And Bob Myers admitted to Stein and Go yesterday, maybe it's not the smartest thing to do, but you still do it, which is you react to those last few games before the deadline.
Please don't.
Well, please don't, but for real, if they win it, I think it goes more the other direction than maybe what you're thinking. Like, if they win tonight, I don't think that makes the Warriors go, hey, don't touch anything, we're good. I think it makes them go the other way. As in, hey, we're moving up in the standings a little bit. It encourages them to go make a deal because they already have their data that this is not enough.
It's like a baseball team who's within 5 games of the division on deadline day. All right, they just need a little bit of a boost. But if you're the Giants and you're 15 games out of the deadline, well, okay, let's do nothing, which is what the Giants had done, but right. You should sell.
Right. Yeah. So I actually think if you're in favor of moves, I think a win tonight is huge. I think it's huge on multiple levels. But also, obviously, when we all come back on Monday, it's going to be down to brass tacks. Who knows? Maybe the move even has already happened.
Good.
But after tonight, the Warriors have the weekend off, and then Monday, Wednesday, Thursday games next week. Is that right?
Correct. Monday, Orlando at home. Wednesday in Utah. Thursday against the Lakers in LA.
Thursday
after the deadline on Thursday.
And by the way, we're going to be, it's not going to be open to the public yet, but we're going to be doing our show Thursday from Splash, which is the all-new, unbelievable, wait until you do get a chance to come see this, the unbelievable sports bar experience that's opening up at Thrive City just in time for the All-Star game.
Like, going to be the spot to watch any sporting event going on.
I'm telling you, the hub. And if you ever want to do, like when we get to the summer, you want to do that two-step, you want to do the day game at Oracle Park and the night game at Chase Center, this is going to be where you go to get your potato skins in between games.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ain't even seen the menu yet, but you know what I'm talking about. Go get some nachos and just take it all in. It's
get a drink or two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Get a cocktail. Come on. You've earned it.
More of a beer guy myself.
Fine. Get a beer.
I was thinking the same thing.
You want a beer? Have a beer. Yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. So we're going to be doing that Thursday, which is right after the deadline, but before the Warriors play the Lakers.
Yes.
So that's going to be a big, big, big. So anyway, my point is, and we're going to play some of this Bob Myers for you to sort of reboot the conversation. Two of the big things that I thought were amazing to come out of it was Bob sort of admitting that, yes, the games leading up to the deadline affect general managers. And yes, what fans think affect general managers. So if I'm you, listener, let's take this hour to really get into this. 888-957-9570, because what you say and what you feel is going to resonate inside the hallways of the Warriors front office. And I think they've got the message that in general, this is just me, taking a straw poll here. I think the Warrior fan base is really thirsty.
No doubt.
For something.
No doubt. To the point where I think some people, probably almost every outside observer, and you could probably include Eric Pincus on this list, would describe the thirst that a lot of Warrior fans have, myself included, as irresponsible. And I know you have said this a lot. And I know you're talking to Warrior fans. I think you're also talking to me when you say you just want the Warriors to make a move because you're bored. And that's a bad reason to make a move. Well, hell yeah, I'm bored. This has been a 500 team, and they're 12-20 in their last 32 games. I don't think it's good to have a boring basketball team. Now, if your only motivation for making a move is to try to make a boring team exciting, okay, that's maybe not the best thing. But you can go from boring to exciting and also go from boring or bad or average to good. And that should be the goal. You should be able to kill a couple of birds with a single stone. At least that would be the goal. But yeah, that's where they are. And I don't know how you can look, even if they were to say, they win against the Thunder, say they win tonight, say they win against Orlando, and they win in Utah. So you're going into the trade deadline with what, a 5-game winning streak? 5-game winning streak?
That would be correct.
The Warriors are smart enough to know that 5-game winning streak does not erase the 10-20 stretch they just went on before that.
I think you could hear that in Steve Kerr's voice yesterday when he joined us. I agree with you completely. So anyway, few different angles on this. 888-957-9570. With how much juice is in the orange still for this year for the Warriors. And then also, we got into like spotlighting Kevon Looney because he's an expiring deal, and we do think that there's a healthy chance that if the Warriors make a deal, it's possible he is a part of it. So therefore, emotionally, how ready are you to move on from Kevon Looney? And in honor of Kevon, who's your favorite Bay Area sports athlete who never really put up numbers? And this is fun because Filmo Mike, A, is one of our favorite callers. B, he's got an idea on this. And C, he was in here like an hour and a half ago or something. He was in here.
That's true, Lucas?
That was, yes.
Whoa.
He waved. I saw him.
I missed him.
I saw you walking through these hallways, Filmo Mike. What are you doing, man? Thanks for calling.
Oh, man, I was looking out for my people. Spudman and Spudman, wow.
Yeah.
Spudman and the Morning Rose.
I'm going to call Spudman from now on, that's for sure.
There you go. That'll work.
Yeah. You were looking good today, Filmo.
Oh, man, thank you, man. I appreciate that,
you
my brother.
Up.
Appreciate you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Now, real quick, the random players that I had affinity for, Bill Miller.
Yes.
And Woody, a.k.a. Kirk Reeder. I think a lot of people did.
Yep.
For the Niners, I got. Check this out. I got Isaac Sapuaga.
Oh, Sapuaga.
Always loved him. Always had an affinity, and he was a great pickup in Madden in like the 60th round. Also, Delaney Walker.
Yes.
I got so mad. I followed Delaney Walker. He got inducted into, like, you know, they was shouting him out on the Titans. I was like, nah, he a Niner, but I forgot he really didn't do nothing on the Niners. But I used to love Delaney Walker. You remember he used to return kickoffs. Also, for the Warriors, let me hurry up. I got Paul McPherson, random as hell, Kalina Azubuike, and Mark Jackson with a C. Big man Mark Jackson. You remember him, Mark?
Oh, my God.
Big man Mark Jackson.
Yes, I sure do. The other Mark Jackson.
Last but not least, I just want to mention this randomly. All-Star game, I got the perfect idea.
What is it?
Why don't we just do a script for the All-Star game? Go WWE and just do a script. It's not real. No one has to know it's an exhibition. Why not? You put all the drama in there, and you do it on the All-Star game. You can make Steph Curry MVP. Do a whole script. Do everything you want. Put Steph versus LeBron. Put them on the same team. Build out the scripts. Do some acting. I think that'll be the best way for the All-Star game to be lit. And they could play 75%, but if they got the storylines in there, they make it look good, and everybody look like they playing hard, and it's competitive, I think that'll be lit. They just do a whole script. You have a 2-point game, a 3, however you want to do it. Steph for the 3 for the win. If you make it, he make it. If he don't, he don't. But it'll be so entertaining just to try to do a script instead of just doing what they do now. If you think about it.
Filmo, I tell you what, first of all, thank you for calling. I'd be up for anything. I literally am open to any idea. The whole script thing, the only thing that sort of pops to mind that I would wonder about if you did something like this would be the players' willingness to even be involved.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, from a larger view, that's what we're talking about. Whether it's the dunk contest, hell, whether it's just games on a Wednesday in Charlotte. Our whole issue right now in the NBA is getting players to be willing to do whatever it is the NBA schedule is asking them to do.
Yeah, if they're not willing to play a basketball game against their best peers, I don't know how interested they'd be in acting or playing along with the chosen script that year. If the chosen script was get Steph the MVP, how would, I don't know, someone like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander feel about that?
I mean, he might be all right with that, but even so how do you go about playing? If it's going to be a great script, it would need to look like basketball.
You also just need Steph to make a bunch of threes in order for that to happen, and you can't really plan that out.
No, and I also think you're looking at players who would need to then again commit to a little bit of physicality, and to me that's the thing. You can do whatever you want, Adam. You can make them play a tournament. You can make them draft each other. You can give them money. You can put them on the moon. I don't think you're going to get these basketball players to touch each other.
The draft was great, not because of what it impacted on the court, just because of the drama during the draft.
The draft was fun.
The game was not.
Maybe we should just do that. Have them show up and draft each other, and then they can all sit down and have a burger. Honestly, they're not going to touch each other. And if the players won't touch each other, how do you play basketball and have it look like basketball? So, Filmo, I love the idea because, let's just throw out ideas.
Creative.
Let's do that. I'm in. But to me, there's a common thread through whatever we say, which is that you're not going to get these guys to bump with one another.
Yeah.
Christian in Fairfield next up on Willard and Dibs with Grandy here. What's up, Christian?
Hey, fellas, how you doing?
Real good, man.
I wanted to see why you don't think De'Aaron Fox is a good trade option. And then for the names, he was a great player, but the reason I'm a Warriors fan is Sleepy Floyd. And then the average player name is probably the worst moment in Warriors history, Billy Owens.
Oh, God. Billy Owens. Okay, first of all, Christian, you're speaking my language. So Sleepy Floyd is that was my guy. That was my guy, man, when I was first coming up in Warrior basketball. Thank you, Christian. But I don't want this to be mistaken. If it sounds like, and I don't want to speak for you, Grandy, the idea of being down on a De'Aaron Fox trade, no, not down on it at all. I just personally think it's impossible. I do not think the Sacramento Kings will do business with the Warriors. I do not think De'Aaron Fox is interested in being extended with the Warriors. These players have tons of power. They know where they'll be extended, and they let those teams know through their agent whether or not they will extend. And if the Warriors are being told, and I believe they are, along with probably 28 other teams, I won't extend with you, then it's a bad idea to give up a ton of assets to get him.
Yeah, agreed. And even if the Warriors would be willing to give up those assets, again, like you said, I don't think the Kings have any interest in playing ball with the Warriors on De'Aaron Fox. The only thing worse than trading away a franchise centerpiece and having him go on to do great things is trading a franchise centerpiece to your Northern California rivals,
right?
Who you can drive across 2 hours to get to the opposing arena. Like, it's one thing if it's the Lakers or the Clippers and you're still in the same division, although who cares about divisions in basketball, but you're not trading your franchise centerpiece to your main geographical rival.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I've been trying to say whenever anyone brings it up this week. I'm not trying to pour water on anybody's flame. It's just not a match. And when you look at the way these stars kind of conduct this thing, there's a reason you're hearing San Antonio Spurs and maybe there's a couple other teams that are on the outskirts. De'Aaron Fox does not want to play for the Warriors, and the Kings and Warriors do not want to do business with one another. So I just don't think that that's a realistic play. I wish it was.
Me too.
I mean, it was. Awesome.
Of all the realistic players available at the deadline, I mean, he's probably the belle of the ball. He's the number one prize because he's young and very good.
Listen to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app. Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union for a low-rate auto loan. Apply online or just ask for First NorCal financing at the dealer. Also, Slam Dunk in Vegas contest is on. So someone's going to win travel and accommodations for a party of 4. You get to bring 3 guests of your choosing to Las Vegas. And oh, by the way, when you get there, each of you gets $5,000.
Whoa.
20 grand when you arrive in Vegas. This is the ultimate viewing experience for the first 2 rounds of the College Basketball Championship. And all you have to do is listen for at least an hour a day on the Odyssey app. And I don't mean you need to compile an hour every day for an entire month. Anytime that you listen for at least an hour, you're entered.
And you can enter every single day.
Every day, you get a new entry, okay? So you download the Odyssey app, and it's a national contest. You log in, you listen for a minimum of an hour every day, and you're in, and you might be going to Vegas with $20,000 in March. So
sounds pretty simple and straightforward to me.
That's going on as well. We want to keep taking some calls, but also coming up in 5 minutes or so, you should reboot the way you laid out the remainder of the Golden State Warriors season and sort of why you're so focused on Cam Johnson. And I'm right there with you. And what I love about Cam Johnson, and if you don't even know who that is, we'll explain all of it to you. He plays for the Brooklyn Nets. For both of us, he's our absolute number 1 target. I love that it's so quiet around him. I love that.
You're big on that.
Well, let's talk about it for a second. We are in the media, and then there are those in the media who actually report on these things. It's not as if they're just Monty Poole is not at Mike Dunleavy's house. He's not on the phone with him listening in. For Monty or Kawakami or Anthony Slater or Marcus Thompson, for any of them to get information, Mike Dunleavy or anyone else in the Warriors organization has to knowingly decide, I would like to tell that person something on the record. And then that person gets to share it with all of us. And people don't do things for no reason. Why are they telling them, oh, by the way, we're about to trade for Zach LaVine or whatever?
Well, for trades,
why would they do that?
For trades, it could also come from the other team.
Yes, or the agent.
The
Yes.
Bulls could be saying, well, Mike Dunleavy's been calling us a lot. They are interested in Zach LaVine.
But why would they do that?
I don't know.
And that's what I'm talking about.
But it might not, the Warriors might not feel like it's in their best interest for that to be out there. It could be somebody else that's giving that information out.
I remember, and I know this to be a fact, there are general managers who I've had conversations with where they will tell you in a way they're almost going to float something out there to the opponent because they want to see
if it gets out.
And they'll tell them, they say, listen, on this conversation that we're having right now, If this gets out, I'm out. So you keep it here or I'm out. If I see this or I hear about this, this conversation's over. That happens. So when you suddenly, here comes Windhorst and 80 other reporters, and Zach LaVine and Zach LaVine and Jimmy Butler, when you do that, somebody wants something to happen. They're trying to push a leverage button. And if you hear nothing, I do translate that as at least it could mean conversations are going well. Because if you hear everything, it means that you're butting up against something and they're trying to use the public to stir it up or get something going in a different direction.
Well, I haven't heard a lot of talk about Zion to the Warriors, so you're telling me that's going to happen, huh?
Exactly what I'm saying. If you haven't heard their name, they're coming. So, like, 98% of the league is about to be on the Warriors because you haven't heard their name.
Get it done, Mike.
Let's go to Sean in Richmond. Hi, Sean. Thanks for calling.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's good?
Hey, man, I like what you guys talking about and everything, but hopefully we're not getting no more guards over here. We're like guard heavy over here in Golden State, and it's just time for us to start building on a situation where it's going to prolong Curry's career. It's also going to keep Curry excited to still be here. I'm tired of the old recipe. We keep on getting more guards. That whole, I keep forgetting that guard that we just got.
Schroeder.
I'm done. Yeah, Schroeder. It's just like we need to compete with these bigger guys, man. And the Lakers is already showing it that they're winning all these games with Davis and LeBron and all these other cats coming off the bench and everything. We got to rebuild. We got to do something different, and we got to do it right now.
So let me ask you this, though, Sean. Do you consider the likes of Butler and LaVine or even Cam Johnson, do you consider them guards?
Cam Johnson, I think, is like a hybrid a little bit. I like him. I don't like LaVine.
Okay.
Because he's a suspect. He's suspect in defense. Butler, as long as if it's his head straight, that's pretty much still like another guard. But at the same time, he played defense. If you can keep his interest, that's the issue.
Yeah, I mean,
how long can we keep him here?
It's a good breakdown, Sean. Thanks. And yeah, Cam Johnson's 6'8". He's 6'8", and I don't think the Warriors are going to be in there. Like, if you're worried about a Dennis Schroeder type, I don't think the Warriors are in the market for that. Obviously, the only big name that fits that description who's on the market is De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
And no, I don't. I think the Warriors were getting Schroeder simply to replace DeAnthony Melton.
Yep.
Other than that, they probably agree with some of what you just said, Sean.
And they could really use a stretch five. They could use shooting across the board. It almost doesn't matter what position it is. Point guard, maybe you're right. That necessarily no, but they wouldn't like turn their heads at a great shooting point guard. That's still a pretty good asset to have. You could make other combinations work. But yeah, they just need shooting anywhere you can get it. And Vucevic is an option, of course. He's one of the best shooting bigs that's available, probably the best shooting big that is available at the deadline. The issue is he's older and that he is absolutely terrible defensively. I'm a big fan of the Cam Johnson idea because I think he's just the perfect fit on the Warriors roster that unlocks so much else. And what kind of happened for me, what crystallized in my mind was the Warriors beat OKC and you kind of had everything happen at once. Everything that's like been inconsistent, and it all happened at once. You got a great game from Wiggins. You got a very solid game from Dennis Schroeder. I know no one wants to admit it, but Buddy Hield was very solid in the second half of that basketball game. You got greatness from both Kevon Looney and from Gary Payton II. Brandon Pajemski was really good in that game. Kyle Anderson hit a big shot. You got everything that you've been waiting for to happen at once. The Warriors are good when all those things happen. Of course, when everyone on their team is playing good, good things happen.
Right.
The issue with this Warriors team, though, is they've been largely inconsistent. And one thing that I've been asking myself is, why is this group so inconsistent? Because clearly it's there. And when it's there, this is a very good team. Again, against the 6 best teams in the NBA, the teams with the 6 best records, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, Boston, Houston, New York, the Knicks, and Memphis, the Warriors have a winning record against those 6 teams. They're 7-6. when things click, and by the way, it has tended to click against the best teams, when things click, there's no team out there that the Warriors cannot beat. Now, you could say that for a number of teams. It's just varying levels of how often things click for teams. I think the issue for this Warrior team and why it hasn't been clicking very often is because they are asking everybody to play up a role. They have a gigantic hole in their number 2 scoring spot on this roster. They're asking Wiggins right now to do that. Wiggins can do it every once in a while. He did it. Well, he really was the number 1 scorer against Oklahoma City, and he's good enough to do that every so often, but he more fits in as a number 3 scorer who's going to give you a lot defensively and will defend the opposing best guard or wing. He'll do that every night. He'll give you anywhere between like 12 to 16 points on an average game, but every once in a while he'll break out and score 27 like he did against Oklahoma City. I could say a similar thing for Dennis Schroeder. Right now he's being asked to be the number 3 scorer. If you add in somebody like a Cam Johnson who can be your 2, it pushes Wiggins down to 3. You get Kuminga back, he could be 4. Dennis Schroeder suddenly is your number 5 scorer behind Steph and those other guys I just mentioned. I think it makes the whole roster come together. This isn't like a terrible roster. This is the funniest thing. I've seen so many Warrior fans on Twitter post the Warriors starting lineup from the Oklahoma City game, which was, I guess it was the Utah game when Steph was out. It was, Schroeder, Hield, and Wiggins, and GP2, and TJD. And it was, oh my God, this is the worst starting 5 in NBA history. Like, no, clearly it's not. You have Wiggins.
Actually, it was the team they were playing that had the worst starting 5 in NBA history.
Like, this isn't a bad Warriors roster. It is just a roster that is missing a very, very important piece, which is a number 2 scorer. And if you can get your hands on the number 2 scorer without giving up a Wiggins or a Kuminga, who are still clearly very valuable to that team, everybody else slides down a notch into a role that they are so much more comfortable in.
I think you're cooking right here. And I agree on that 100%. And the line that you use each time you use it, I ask you to slow down and say it again, because I don't know if any of our heads have been thinking about this all year. When you take the 6 best teams in the NBA, the Warriors have a winning record against them.
7-6.
That is really significant. And they're tied for the lead in terms of wins against the teams that have the best point differential in the league, as you pointed out, right? So, like, all of that suggests, again, nobody here is making the case, hey, the Warriors are still good. Like, just keep running it. It's not good enough. But what it does tell you is there is something in the sauce that is effective. And at its highest level, if you can, as you're pointing out, move people down, take a little off everyone's plate, and make it more consistent, you could actually have something. Because in recent years, the last 2 years, and the frustration around them, I think that the characteristic of the Warriors that really told who they were was their record against the best teams in the league, and it was awful.
Yeah.
But that's not the case this year.
Now, the flip side is they're 7-6 against the best teams in the NBA,
which means
they're 17-17 against everybody else.
Which, right. So that shows
that there is a problem.
Of course.
But it's not like a problem so far as there's no possible solution.
No, I think injuries play a part in that. I think age plays a part in that. I think underperformance plays a part in that. But this deal, to me, shores up a lot of that. And then the other side to it is you have to hope that you're about to be a healthier basketball team. Like, you can't sit here today and be like Draymond and Kuminga. Well, you hope. You hope that 2 to 3 weeks from now, you have a stretch of being full strength, and let's see what you can do in the second half of the season. Let's go to Johnny in the city. Hi, Johnny. Thank you for calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. A couple of things. One, I think Curry has to get on the phone and try to convince Fox to come join with us for long term. I think he may or may not be able to do that, but if I'm the owner, I'd ask Curry to make a phone call and convince Fox to sign a long-term deal with us. If that can't get done, there's a trade that would work with the trade exceptions. Brooklyn would get Kyle Anderson. Indiana would get Kevon Looney, and we would get Cam Johnson and Miles Turner. I was listening to the game the Indiana game the other night, and their hometown announcers said that they are worried that they won't be able to afford to sign Miles Turner. And if that's the case, they are looking at possibly trading him before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to hear that, but that means he's available. He would be a great stretch 5 for us. And the trade exception with Looney and Kyle Anderson works on the trade machine. And I think that would give us Cam Johnson and Miles Turner, which would solve our 3 and 4 or 3 and 5 positions.
I'm not like Johnny. I've heard some of the same things, that Miles Turner is a possibility. I know a lot of Warrior fans are into him. I'm not on your laptop. I'm not seeing how those salaries match up at all. But like we'll play around with it a little bit. But you know, if Cam Johnson in theory is somewhere in the neighborhood of 27 and
Miles Turner's 20.
And that's what's on the way to your team.
Yeah, you have to give up Wiggins.
The Warriors have to give up at a minimum of $47 million, and Kyle Henderson makes about 8.
Is this year 6 or year 7 of the Warriors trying to trade for Miles Turner?
Maybe
year 8?
9.
Yeah.
We're
so back.
We're cooking with gas now. Like that's, but his larger point.
I mean, those players would both fit on the Warriors,
whether his trade machine is broken or not. If you want to have a conversation about Miles Turner, not the worst idea. Again, I would love to see someone who's a little bit more prolific offensively. Like Miles is a good offensive player, and he's a banger, and he can do some things on both ends of the floor.
He can hit the 3 too.
But that's my point. Like the Warriors have a bunch of people who can hit the 3. They need a 3-point shooter. Cam Johnson is a 3-point shooter.
42%.
He is a marksman. This is one of the best catch and release players in the whole NBA.
Miles Turner, 40% from deep this year.
Right, but a lot less volume.
5 attempts per game.
Yeah, a lot less volume.
Cam's putting up 7.5 per game.
Right, again, he's a good shooter. He's a good shooter. He's a very, very good player.
Career year shooting. He's never shot higher than 38%. He's shooting 40%.
Again, that's just, if you don't agree with the opinion, you cannot agree with the opinion. But Miles Turner, to me, is someone who can shoot a 3. Cam Johnson is a 3-point shooter.
He would probably immediately become their second best 3-point shooter.
I mean,
that's maybe saying more about the rest of the Warriors.
Yeah, you're saying Miles Turner is somewhere around 40.
Yeah.
Like Draymond Green has spent the majority of the year as someone who's around 40.
True, not 5 attempts per game.
Not 5 a game, but I could argue that Draymond Green is someone who can shoot a 3. But not 3-point shooter.
Draymond 36% this year on about 3.5 attempts per game.
I even put Wiggins in that category, and he's doing pretty well this year. But I look at him as a guy who can shoot a 3, not a 3-point shooter. Steph Curry's a 3-point shooter.
Andrew Wiggins is 38.7% this year.
Which is good.
35.7 on his career.
That's totally possible. But
what is Buddy Hield?
Buddy Hield's a 3-point shooter.
How's that going?
But not right now. Not right now.
He'll shoot him.
And hasn't been for
He's not a 3-point maker.
No. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think Buddy Hield's 3-point percentage is this year, up to the minute, before tonight's game?
Higher than y'all think it is, was going to be my answer. I bet Buddy Hield's percentage right now is 38.
36.4.
36.4.
He's a career 39.8% shooter.
Yeah. And at that volume, I'm going to say that someone who shoots 40% at that volume, that's 3-point shooter. And that's what Cam Johnson is for his career too. He's right around 40.
Since the beginning of December, Buddy Hield is 30%.
Oh, it's been terrible.
Yeah.
It's been brutal. And a lot of them are like wide open. Wide open. I was watching the game the other night, and this was early in the Thunder game, and the ball moved around the arc, and it got to Buddy, and there was nobody there. Thank you. Yes, I have a TV. I've got 2 of them. So ball moves around the arc.
You have cable, YouTube TV? What do you got here?
So anyway, right, Warriors coming up at 7. So ball moves around the arc, and it gets to Buddy, and he's wide open, and Fitz goes, okay. But, like, he literally had this amount of work. He's just like,
this
it was
is
like
the moment.
Drum roll. He goes, Okay, Buddy Hield, warm up 3.
Every 3 is a trip.
Bing, 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 and bounced out. Nope.
You can't buy a bucket.
No. Cannot buy a bucket. But then he'll suddenly have a third quarter and hit 3 of them. Like, he'll do that. So, look, I've already had my apology to the adorable Kings fans who tried to tell us for a month, oh, just wait. Don't fall.
Hey, he showed up against the Kings.
Yep, but don't fall for Buddy Buckets. Like, the Buddy Hield experience is coming, and we've gotten it. We got a huge spoonful of it.
And for everyone on our text line, 888-957-9570, I get a lot of it on Twitter as well. So, well, you shouldn't be trading away Kevon Looney. You should throw Buddy Hield into the mix. It is less about the player in terms of trades and more about the contract situation. As we talked about with Eric Pincus, it's always been the case. I think it's even more so now because of the new CBA. Expiring deals, which are essentially contracts that don't go beyond this current season, are so valuable to teams who aren't necessarily interested in trying to win basketball games the rest of the year, because it allows them to reset their books and have a better opportunity at either not spending a lot of money and pleasing an owner, or setting themselves up for next year's free agency and having the ability to go out and sign somebody. So this isn't you or me or anyone else saying Buddy Hield's more valuable to the Warriors than Kevon Looney. It's that Kevon Looney is 100 times more valuable on the trade market than Buddy Hield because he's on an expiring deal.
Right. And plus, I get this. I got nothing against fans who think this way, because we all try to do this to our friends in fantasy football anyway. Like, we try to be like, here, you want to try to act like you're a step ahead of everybody. And you want
he's primed for a breakout.
Yeah, you want to get rid of your crap, and you want to receive something awesome in return, and you want to convince everybody that, hey, he's due. He's about to break out. And Buddy Hield does have a track record in the NBA. And yes, it is at times frustrating, but he is legitimately a long-time NBA effective three-point shooter. That's the resume. He can score the basketball.
Through the first X however many games he's played in his career, one of the most prolific three-point shooters in NBA history.
Totally. But you're not I don't think we're in a spot where you're going to pull the wool over another team's eyes. So I get it. You want to get rid of Buddy Hield. We went through periods of time already where everyone wanted to get rid of Pods. That's taken a break because he's had 4 good games since his injury. He looks really good. So I understand it, but I don't, with a number of years left on the deal, I don't think you're going to find takers for Buddy Hield right now.
No, I don't think so either. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Who do you think the Warriors are starting tonight?
Oh, boy.
I have the starting lineup in my hands, courtesy of our Warriors insider, Anthony Slater. I'll just refresh your memory what the Warriors started with last game.
Right.
Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, and remember, Quentin Post. So that was the last starting 5. Okay. What do you think tonight's starting 5 is versus Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and the Phoenix Suns?
All right. Literally had lunch with the with John before he came in here today.
Voice of the Suns.
And he told me that something that has sort of dogged the Suns, not just this year, but in years past, the reputation is you can push them around.
Ooh.
You can push them around.
They're a little soft down low.
Right. So, if I'm Steve Kerr, especially to reward him after what he did last game, I'm going to start Kevon Looney. I'm probably wrong on that, but okay, I'm wrong on that. Fine. I don't think it's Quentin Post.
So who do you think it is?
I think it's TJD. It's not.
It's not TJD.
Is it Quentin Post?
It is Quentin Post.
Oh, well, then why'd you buzz it? Why'd you buzz it when I say Quentin Post?
You said it's not Quentin Post.
I said I don't think it's Quentin Post. That's not definitive.
Bad thinking.
All right, let me back up.
Incorrect thinking.
Steph Curry.
That's correct.
All right.
You're 1 for 4.
Dibs would say I'm hot.
All right, you got the center.
Andrew Wiggins.
There you go.
Andrew Wiggins.
You got 1, 3, and 5.
Okay, and we said Quentin Post is going to start. The other 2, I guess GP2.
Correct.
And Schroeder.
Nope.
Is it Hield?
Yep.
Okay.
Same starting lineup as against the Thunder.
I wanted it to be Schroeder.
Me too. Or Pajemski.
Or Pods, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got some underdog action on Pods tonight.
Ooh, there you go.
Well, they put the higher or lower at 8.5 points. I'm like, he can do that? Pods is hot. He's in. He's
not in the starting lineup.
No, but he's not usually in the starting lineup.
So, yeah, Steve Kerr sticking with Buddy Hield. Steve is a big Buddy Hield fan.
Well, but I don't have an issue with it because I think if we've gotten any message from the Warriors this year, don't get obsessed with who's starting. Like Quentin Post started, and then he never played again the rest of the night.
He had like another 2-minute stint.
He had another 2, you're right.
That was
played 6 minutes, and then they went back to him for 2 minutes at some other point.
In the second quarter, I think.
Yeah. So
did not play the whole second half.
Right. If Buddy, you might as well check and see if he's got it going, because he can get you some points early in the game. He can get things off to a good start. If not, you pull him, and you can go to Schroeder, and you can go in other directions. Look, Buddy's going to play. Buddy is going to play, and I don't care if it's at the beginning of the game. I just don't. I don't think worrying about the starting lineup. It's that type of team right now where you got to see who's hot, who's not, and you have to play the field game once you get started. I know y'all want Moody to start, but he'll get his time. And if he plays great and Buddy's bricking, then Moody's going to stay in the game.
Yeah. I thought there was a chance that we might see Buddy Hield not start the second half against Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
He started the game, and sometimes that's what Steve will do. In fact, he did it with Quentin Post in that Oklahoma City game. He started Quentin Post and then started Kevon Looney to begin the second half. And Looney obviously responded by having maybe the best game of his career, or at least his regular season career. He was amazing in that game. But we haven't yet seen that. I asked Steve about Buddy Hield yesterday here on the show. Thank you. And it was less about making shots. He honestly did have a nice stretch to begin the second half where he was pushing the ball and actually making good passes and setting up his teammates. And Steve, of course, is very appreciative of that sort of thing. Like, one of the first replies to Anthony Slater's tweet is, "Oh my God, Buddy Hield has some serious dirt on Steve Kerr." Like, that's not what it is. Steve Kerr just likes the other things that Buddy Hield does. The issue is it's harder for us to see that, I think, because we just think of Buddy Hield as this amazing three-point shooter, and he hasn't been making his threes for 2 months now.
Yeah, look, I said it last year. I think it rings true again this year, especially with Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond Green hurt. There are plenty of nights where you are going to be screaming Steve Kerr and rotations. But just my opinion, I find it to be an unfair take. I just do. And I mean that almost in an omnipresent way. Number one, because yes, you're all right. He's going to make some mistakes because there is no way to know with a group of just above mediocre players who's going to, like Quentin Post, we're like, oh, Quentin Post. And
20 points.
And then he went out there and he Chewbacca'd the game because he looked like a Wookiee, okay? He looked like a Wookiee. And so you pull him back out, and then you're yelling at Steve Kerr in rotations again. The bottom line is these dudes, they're going to look different every single night. They don't have a flow because they don't have all of their people. And so you do have to dip toe in water, see who's got it, and then play the field game within the game. And I credit Steve that he'll come on our show and others and be like, I messed that one up tonight. But we're asking him to basically be an intuitive of some sort with regard to who's gonna do what in the matchup, who's gonna have the hot hand, and that's an impossible game to play every night.
And as much as we might be frustrated watching Buddy Hield play, and I think I share with a lot of Warrior fans frustration in watching him just miss open three after open three after open three. It's rough, of course. The one thing that Buddy does do, like, say, even better than, way better than, say, Guy Santos, even when Guy was on that streak where he was making like 4 out of every 5 threes he took, it felt like. Making everything he took. Buddy Hield, just because of what he's done in his career and the respect that defenses have for him, even if he goes 0 for 7 from deep on a night, he's still spacing the floor. Like, he's still Guy Santos is not spacing the floor. Pajemski is not spacing the floor. Moses Moody not really spacing the floor. They might be shooting better from deep over the last few weeks. No doubt they are, of course.
Yep.
But no, you want your guys to be making the open threes that they're taking, but him being out there is still making it at least a little bit easier on Steph because the defense has to respect Buddy Hield, even if he's made one of his last 100 from downtown.
And even with Schroeder playing better, he's not shooting that great. So those of you who want Schroeder in there instead of Hield, not like he's really knocking down his threes either. I don't know what his number is as far as what he's been shooting since he came to Golden State.
Schroeder?
From 3?
Give me a sec.
I bet it's below 35%. I bet it's below 35. So 888-957-9570 is the number. We'll keep taking your calls on this.
Schroeder with the Warriors, 30.8 from downtown.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough.
He was 38.7 in Brooklyn this year.
Yeah, it's a big, big difference. Kevin in Pleasanton. Hey, Kev, what's going on? Thanks for calling.
Guys, what's up? Hey, the only reason why I'm calling and saying this is because, Willard, I know you'll keep it real. Right?
Come on.
So listen. Honest. Last game, did Steph have to play for the Warriors to win?
Last game, did Steph have to? I believe so, but I could hear a different argument.
No. I was just asking. Okay. And then my other man that's filling in for Dibs.
Grandy.
What's up?
So Grandy. So what is your thought? Because I know you think differently than Wilder.
Well, I think there have been moments where the Warriors have surprisingly played pretty decent without Steph, but they lose against Oklahoma City without Steph. I mean, Steph was huge down the stretch in that fourth quarter. He didn't have a very good first half. Honestly, it was a miracle they were only down 10. I think I know where you're going, but they lose that game without Steph against Oklahoma City.
Okay. However, though, I can backtrack you on that. What you said yesterday, right, I was dying to call in, but I couldn't. But what you said is actually when Steph went out at 4 minutes or something like that, the Warriors went on a 10-5.
They did, yeah.
Okay. When Steph came in, every time Steph came in, the Warriors lost points. You know why? Because, and I'm not talking about this is not on Steph. It's just the flow of the game. The game was moving fast. Everybody touched the ball. When Steph's in, Steve Kerr has it set up to where everybody's rescreening like 4 times. Whereas when Steph's not, the ball is flowing. That's why Pajinski was flowing like he was. It was moving. And so sometimes, I know you guys know this, you don't know the rhyme or reason why Steve just pulls people out that are hot. He just does that. And sometimes it needs to keep up with the flow of the game. I liken Steve Kerr to Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. When he had, what's the quarterback?
Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger. And the league is moving towards mobile quarterbacks. Kerr is kind of stuck in this same system, and he's not allowing it to where the athletes can play in the system. The league is evolving, and Kerr is still trying to stay the old way. And this rescreen is slowing the ball down.
Well,
so quite frankly,
yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Kev.
No, I was saying, so quite frankly, while, yes, the talent is not there, but I still blame that on Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is running things, so don't get it twisted. He's the voice in the room. Steve thought that he can plug and play like he's always done, right? However, he's not letting the athletes play. The system has changed. The NBA that he created, Steve Kerr created it. He just didn't evolve with his creation. He's still stuck. Right, kind of like Mike Tomlin.
Well,
he's stuck.
But, Kev, I think the middle ground is an interesting take. Thanks for calling. I think the middle ground is not, and I don't even know if Kev is fully pitching this, but, if the idea is, you just got to move on from Steph Curry and this team is better without him, I don't know how many people buy that. But the rescreen, in other words, the full focus and pressure on Steph's shoulders at all times does feel like it's got diminishing returns as well. So I get that. To me, the middle ground is actually what you did see the other night against Oklahoma City. I thought that even when Steph was on the court, you saw a little bit less of a dominating of the ball by Steph Curry. And you saw him take a role where it was like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be on the floor. I'm going to be a big presence, but not the only presence. But what that called for that night was for Andrew Wiggins to be on one, and we all damn well know if you want to sit around and wait for those games, they usually come around once every 2 weeks.
And when they do come around, you got to take advantage of them.
Right, and that's great.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get that every single time out.
I do understand where our caller's coming from, and that
I do too.
That was kind of the basis of a point I was trying to make, I think, what he's talking about a couple of days ago here. And it was the dichotomy between how the Warriors offense looks when Steph's on the floor and when Steph is off the floor. It is amazing that the Warriors are 6-3 without Steph this year. It makes no sense. Have you watched an normal end of game when Steph is on the floor and how rough that is? You would imagine you take Steph, the most feared offensive weapon in the NBA still to this day, you take that out and somehow the team looks like it flows better. It doesn't make any sense. And I think what you're hitting on is right. There needs to be, and maybe there is, a little bit of adjustment when Steph is on the floor of not 24/7 making this crazy Steph-centric screen, rescreen, get him the ball. You have an open look. Oh, but Steph's open too. That's a better shot. Like, there is a reality in where you can maybe play a little freer and flow while Steph is on the floor and allow him to thrive a little bit more in the flow of that offense, as opposed to every single second on the court is try to get the best possible look for Steph 24/7, which takes away from everybody else.
888-957-9570. More of your calls next, including Kurt from Hayward Hills is on the line here to wrap up our week, which is amazing. We'll tell you more about how you might end up in Vegas with thousands of dollars simply by doing what you're already doing literally right now. So there's that coming up. And, by the way, the Warriors play in an hour and 20 minutes against the Suns right here on 95.7 The Game.
This game day traffic report is brought to you by Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water. Berkeley Interstate 80 is slow from Ashby Avenue all the way towards the Bay Bridge. The toll plaza is slow and go. Metering lights have been turned on. Traffic on the Bay Bridge is slowing your ride on the incline all the way towards Fremont Street.
What makes Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water different? We always...
forget the names of the callers because we're just taking that caller right there that you just replayed. You know what he is?
What?
The bleep starter. Bleep starter. You walk into a room and look at two people and go, "Hey, don't you think X?" And then you go, "Yeah, I do." And don't you over here, you think Y, right?
And before you get to the second person, you say, I don't even know your name, but you think this, right?
Yeah. Okay, fight. Everybody fight with each other. Bleep starter. You're not going to turn us against each other. But anyway, this has been a really, really fun week. You did an awesome job, man. It's fun fun being in here with you for the whole week. Dibs will be back on Monday. Vegas contest, Slam Dunk in Vegas contest is on. I promise more info on that. Travel and accommodations for 4. That's you and 3 guests, and $20,000. Sorry, just let me drop that in there. Yeah, $5,000 a piece for you and each of your guests.
A piece?
A piece. The ultimate viewing experience for the first 2 rounds of the college basketball championship. And if your next question is, how do I win? You simply just listen on the app. That's it. So if you're logged in and you're listening on the free Odyssey app and you listen for at least an hour each day, that's it. You're entered. You're entered without even having to do anything. So if you haven't already downloaded the free Odyssey app, I'm thinking, now would be good. So go ahead and do that, and then listen each day for a minimum of an hour, and then you're entered every single day into this national contest.
And obviously, it goes without saying, the more times you enter, which means the more days you listen on the app for at least an hour, the higher likelihood you have of winning a trip for 4 to Vegas and $20,000.
$20,000.
So just keep listening every day.
Right. And we did get a text earlier that asked the same question we did, which is, can you just invite 3 friends and keep the entire $20K?
You'll have to win to find out.
I don't know the rules, but I don't know how anyone from Odyssey would be able to police that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're going to sequester all 4 people, stick them in hotel rooms of their own, and have, like, a bag boy show up with the $5K and, like, have it delivered in a check form. Like, I don't know, but I don't think any of that's happening.
Probably not.
Probably not. I think you just go to Vegas and they're like, here.
Have fun.
Yeah. You all want to hear the stupidest thing that anybody in the media has said all week? You all want to hear it?
I do.
I do too, but let's hear from Kurt in Hayward Hills first. Hi, Kurt.
Hey, there's the boys, the great boys of the Bay Area. Hey, how you doing, fellas?
We're doing great, Kurt. How are you?
Well, I'm not. Listen, I've been listening, and when I heard that the Warriors, the 5 starters, just started Buddy again for 3 nights in a row. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Buddy again? Let me tell you something about Buddy. One thing about Buddy, first of all, he's not a defensive player. That's number 1.
Yep.
Number 2, maybe he passes the ball once in a while. And the bottom line is, he stinks now as a 3-point shooter. I don't know why we picked him up and nobody's going to want him, and we're stuck with him. Get him out of here!
Yeah, Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt, but I'd say this. Like, he's here, and you have to try to use him for what he's here to do. And I'm not really bothered if he starts or plays in the second quarter or the third quarter or whatever. Like, I mean, are you suggesting just outright DNP, bench the guy?
Yeah, correct. And get Schroeder in there. He's a way better player. Buddy Hield, right now, when I'm watching him the last 3 games as a starter, I don't miss any game. I study every player. This guy is not for us. I don't know why we picked him up. They should ship him out.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of people on your side.
I don't think he's not a starter, my friend. He's not a starter.
Well, I get what you're saying. I don't really care about the whole starting, finishing, somewhere in between. To me, all the minutes are cut from the same cloth. So to me, it's more a matter of just how many minutes do you want to play him. If you make the case that he's playing too many minutes, I hear you. I just think if you're Steve Kerr, you gotta check on him every night, at least once, because he can get hot, Kurt.
Well, he might get hot, but when's he been hot? When? A month ago?
November.
See what I mean? Come on, man.
No, you're not wrong, Kurt. You're not wrong.
I'm 100% right. He shouldn't be a starter. There's a lot of other players on the bench that should be starting besides this guy. He's not any good, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but get him out of here!
Now, that worked well. Kurt, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, I would like to work around the property, but it's going to rain, but I'm going to take it easy. We're going to watch the game tonight, and you can bet Phoenix is going to lose. We need to be on a 3-game winning streak, and if we go to a 5-game winning streak, what are we going to say about the trade then? You're going to break up wait a minute. You're going to break up my man Wiggins? Kuminga?
Probably not. Maybe not, Kurt. Maybe not.
I don't know. I like the team. I like the bench, but they're not inconsistently. That's the problem with them. But if they be consistent, let me tell you, what they made a mistake? They got rid of Thompson. Big mistake.
Well, Clay, he got rid of himself, Kurt. He wanted to leave.
Well, I know that. He was on the bench, and they put him on the bench, and that wasn't good because he's one of the best three-pointer shooters. Not better than Curry. Nobody's ever going to be better than Curry. He's the top of any three-point shooter. We all know that. But Thompson made 7 3-pointers the other day, so he's still a great player, but he was on the bench. So he said, hey, you guys want to put me on bench? I want to get traded. And then they brought in Buddy Hield. Come on.
I mean, hey, Kurt.
You got to be kidding me.
You're calling a victory tonight, huh?
Yeah, I'm calling victory tonight. Okay. I can see it. If they play the same way, and, let me tell you something. We scored 48 points yesterday, the bench. I think we have the best bench in the league, to be honest with you, when we're all playing good, that is.
If they beat the Suns and you happen to be at the airport and the Suns team bus drove by, what would you say to them?
Kurt, way to go. That's a walk-off.
Have a good weekend, and you stay dry. I love hearing Kurt be like, we're just going to take it easy this weekend.
He was going to do some work around the house, around the yard.
It's just my unfair perception. I took him for someone who takes it easy pretty often. That's just my perception.
Kurt gets stuff done.
I think he gets it done, but he watches every minute of every game. So I think he's, take it easy.
There's no Warrior games over the weekend.
That's true.
I need to know what a weekend when he's not taking it easy looks like.
I want to know when Kurt's getting it in. What does that look like?
On the town.
The man on town. Want to hear the dumbest thing that anyone in sports media has said all year?
It's not something that I said?
No, it's definitely not you. It's from ESPN's NBA Today.
I look at a guy like Steph Curry making an All-Star game this season, and I look at a lot of guys like Kyrie Irving, Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox, just in this conference who had better seasons or playing better than him. Look, I'm going to say the quiet thing out loud. Steph Curry should not be an All-Star. He shouldn't. Look, no matter what the fans want, no matter what the coaches want, no matter what we want, who we want to see, this still you have to earn to be an all-star by your production. And if you're looking at the production around the league, it's guys in the Western Conference that have better numbers than Steph, and their teams are in better positions than Steph. So, I mean, what? Am I lying?
Yes.
That's Kendrick Perkins, by the way.
Kendrick Perkins, and I love when he looks at everyone in the room and he's like, what? What? And he said that because they're all looking at him like, dog. I'm sorry, do you not understand how things work?
The All-Star Game is a career achievement award.
It's also for the fans. And so if you want to sit there and be like, but I ran numbers, and this, you want to talk about a numbers are numbers, so numbers are numbers person, apparently it's Kendrick Perkins. And by the way, he didn't even put in the part about how Kendrick, the game, is here in the building that he built. There would be a riot if he wasn't in this game, and there should be. So I now feel dirty for even playing the sound.
Yeah, how dare you?
That's exactly what I think he was going for.
Let's check in on Kobe Bryant, and he was an all-star when he was 37 years old, averaging 17 points per game on 36% shooting.
I did not hear anybody raise a stink about it.
Did he deserve to be an all-star for his performance that year? No, because that's not what the all-star game is about.
Nope. It never has been, and I hope it never is. Good Lord. If we start doing all-star games solely based on merit, that's the only way to positively make it even worse. Honestly. You want the bench player who's scoring 20 a game in San Antonio who you've never even heard of Like, come on, man. You're an entertainment. This is about stars. Just because you were like a rebounding goon in the paint does not mean that's the way the All-Star game should work. They should name the stupid thing after Steph Curry and LeBron James after this last decade and a half. They're the whole league. They are literally the whole league. All right. You know what's coming up on the game?
I think I'm coming up next.
Grandy in this last segment is literally standing up and like buttoning up his collar and his shirt. Why were you all casual for us?
I don't know.
Now you're getting all fancy?
I got to hustle when Warriors Live ends and get to Chase, so I got to just make sure I got everything set so I can just get on out of here.
And there is weather out there, so yes, what's coming up on the game? More Grandy, because he's got Warriors Live tonight ahead of Dubs and Suns heading into the weekend. It's all brought to you by Fremont Bank. Here for you, here for good. Do you want to do it again tomorrow?
No.
Okay, good. All right, Dibs is back on Monday. Thank you for the week, everybody. Really, really fun. For Grandy, for Lucas, for Steven, I'm Mark. Shoot your shot. It's all you got.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Game. Mark Randy with you. We are presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Happy Friday. We got a big Warrior game tonight. Kevin Durant and the Suns are in town. Warriors going for 3 in a row, and this would be a big game to get because the Phoenix Suns are just barely ahead of the Warriors in the Western Conference standings, a half game ahead. Phoenix is at 24-22. They're currently in 9th. The Warriors 24-23. Only difference is one more loss. They are tied with the Kings. The Kings, though, right now are 10th technically because they have the tiebreaker. The Warriors 11th. So the Warriors essentially tied for 10, a half game behind the Suns for 9. If the Warriors are to beat the Suns tonight, they will jump the Suns in the standings. And as we take a look at the Sacramento Kings, they are not playing today. So if the Warriors are to win, they would jump from 11th to 9th in the Western Conference standings. I know it's probably too early to be too hung up on where a team is in the standings, but that's big. That's big. A win would push the Warriors up to 9th in the Western Conference standings, and it would get them within a game of the Dallas Mavericks as well. So big game tonight, Warriors and Suns. These are, again, two teams in the same division and two teams that are right around the same exact spot in the Western Conference standings. Again, the Suns 24-22. They have been playing a lot better of late. They began the season really hot. They were 8-1. Really, it's kind of been a similar season for Phoenix as it has been for the Warriors. Phoenix began the season 8-1. Then they struggled. They fell all the way to 15-18. And that slump kind of coincided with when Kevin Durant went down with a calf injury early in the season. But even when he came back, they haven't really been able to put it together until late. They are 9-4 in their last 13 games, so they're now back up above 2 games over 500 at 24-22. The Warriors haven't really had the upturn just yet, but they started, just like the Suns did, very hot. The Warriors were 12-3. They're 12-20 since then to get to their 24-23 record. But again, the Western Conference is just so jumbled. The Warriors are in 11th right now at 24-23, but only 4 games out of the 4 seed, oddly enough. Denver's the 4. The Lakers are a half game behind them for the 5. The Clippers are a half game behind the Lakers for the 6. The T-Wolves are a half game behind the Clippers for 7. Dallas a game behind Minnesota for 8. Phoenix a game behind Dallas for 9. And then a half game separates the Suns from the Kings and the Warriors as well. So there's really no room between any of these individual teams, and there is plenty of room for upward growth for the Warriors if they are able to go on a little bit of a streak here. The Warriors will have to do it tonight without a couple of key players. Let's get to that now here on our injury report, brought to you by Boxer & Gerson, Northern California's premier workers' compensation law firm, helping injured workers get their lives back for over 40 years. For more information, visit boxerlaw.com. For the Warriors, no surprises, but again, key absences. Draymond Green dealing with that left calf strain, and Jonathan Kuminga, a right ankle sprain, remain out. Draymond Green is day-to-day now. The update the Warriors provided a few days ago, earlier this week. Day-to-day, the Warriors expect him back sometime next week. Not sure if it's going to be Monday. I would probably guess not Monday, but maybe Wednesday when the Warriors are in Utah. Remember, Thursday of next week, 6 days from now, noon Pacific time is the trade deadline. The Warriors are playing on that day, Thursday, in LA against the Lakers, but that game on Thursday evening will be after the noon trade deadline. So the Warriors only have 3 more games before the deadline. Tonight against KD and the Suns, Monday at home against Orlando, and then Wednesday in Utah the day before the trade deadline. We might get Draymond Green back Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday. One of those 3 games would be my guess. If I were to give you my prediction and settle on one day, I would guess Wednesday, but we shall see about Draymond Green. Kevon Looney is also on the injury report, although he is available and will play. He will be wearing a mask, though, because he suffered a right nasal bone fracture. So Kevon Looney, fresh off the best game of his season, dealing with the nasal fracture. You'll see him wearing a mask tonight when he gets on the floor. Meanwhile, for the Suns, every conceivable rotation player is available. So the Suns have everyone available. The only two on the injury report are a couple of G League two-way players, and they're both on assignment with the G League. That doesn't impact this game at all. Those are not getting regular minutes, much like a Warriors two-way player, say, such as Jackson Rowe, isn't getting any rotation minutes. Oddly enough, the Warriors actually do have a two-way player that is getting rotation minutes and is starting tonight, and that's Quentin Post, but that's more of a unique situation than anything else. But, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga out for the Warriors. Kevon Looney available with that right nasal fracture, and he will play with a mask. All right, Warriors Live here on 95.7 The Game. It's Mark Randy with you once again. We are presented by Xfinity. At home or on the go, you'll get the fastest internet to all of your devices. I want to play you something that Steve Kerr told Willard and myself yesterday on Willard and Dibs here on 95.7 The Game. Steve Kerr asking about what the Warriors have done of late, and this conversation essentially was kind of stemmed off of what Bob Myers told Steiny and Guru yesterday. If you missed that, you know what? I'll play that for you as well. Bob Myers asked about the handful of games leading up to the trade deadline, and do you let the results in that game, either good or bad, impact your decision as a franchise at the trade deadline? Like, for example, if you win a lot right before the deadline, does that make you less likely to try to make a trade? Does it make you more likely? Does it not impact anything at all? And I guess the reverse is also true. If you lose a lot before the deadline, does that impact things? That was the question Steiny and Goo had for Bob Myers. Here's what he had to say about that yesterday here on 95.7 The Game.
It does. It probably changes it more than it should. You have to temper that, though. You have to look at the body of work and say, how real is this? The issue, though, what you're saying is you have to stop. You say you win 4 in a row before the deadline or win 3 in a row. You have to kind of push back on that and go, okay, that was just 3 games out of 48. Let's just pause a little bit. But it's hard to do that sometimes.
Okay, so there's Bob Myers, former Warriors general manager and president of basketball operations. Interesting there. Willard and I essentially played that for Steve Kerr yesterday and asked him to add to it. So, Steve, this recent stretch, if you're able to add some wins together, does that make you more likely, less likely to make a trade? What do you think, Steve? Here he is.
Well, I mean, I was a GM once for a few years. Not a very good one, but I was a GM, so I know exactly what Bob is talking about. And that's the tricky part of all this. You know, if you're a team like us, you know, good, not great, that's in the mix but needs to do better, it's a really tough thing to quantify. You know, what do we need to do to get better? What do we need to do to take a step? And there's no question when you see a game like last night, the temptation is, man, like, let's just keep going like this. And why would we do anything? But Bob's right. You can't just look at one game or 2 games. You've got to look at the full picture. And that's what Mike and his staff are doing. It's also why I think it's healthy to have a separation between the, you know, management and the coaching staff, because as coaches, you're very married to the moment. It's up and down all year long. And I think management, it's a little easier for them to sort of take the view from above, a little more perspective, and really get the information all season long that they need to determine what they're going to do.
Okay, there's Steve Kerr yesterday here on 95.7 The Game on Willard and Dibs. I was in for Dibs. Really interesting stuff there from Steve Kerr. To add on top of that conversation and that point that Steve Kerr just made, Steve Kerr has already spoken pregame today before this Warriors-Suns game. And let me just read off a quote from Steve Kerr. On the trade deadline, Steve Kerr says, quote, "We're not in a position where we can say, nah, we're good, let's stand pat. That's the reality of where we are." So if there is any question, if there's any confusion about what the Warriors feel like they need to do with the deadline, I think these pieces of sound and the quote I just read from Steve Kerr, that should clear up any confusion you might have. The Warriors know they need to make a move, and their plan is to make a move. That doesn't necessarily mean a move is going to happen, because in order to make a move, you also need another team to agree to said move. And every deal has a winner and a loser, and the Warriors aren't going to go out and make what they deem to be a terrible trade just for the sake of making a trade. But I think we can all take a little bit of solace in the fact that the Warriors know they are not good enough as presently constructed, and if there is a trade that they think makes them better, they are going to pull the trigger and make that move. Whether it is Jimmy Butler, or if it's Zion, or if it's Zach LaVine or if it's Nikola Vucevic or if it's Cam Johnson or somebody else that we're not really talking about, who knows? But the Warriors, I think, all have feelers, have calls out to every single one of those respective GMs, and they're trying to get something done, which is good news for the Warriors in this one because they need the help. And you know who else specifically needs the help? It is Stephen Curry. Steph Curry desperately needs some help. And so much of what has gone wrong for the Warriors of late, I think, has been, you can see it based on how Steph Curry is playing and how teams are defending him. There's not a lot of other players on the Warriors right now that are too threatening on the offensive end that defenses have to pay that much attention to. So as a result, you get teams doubling Steph Curry at half court, begging him to give the ball up because they're still so deathly afraid of Stephen Curry that they'd rather defend the other way, 3 versus 4, right? 3 defenders versus 4 Warriors offensive players because you have 2 defenders on Steph by himself. They'd rather take their chances that way than to allow Steph go one-on-one and get a shot up. The other thing that teams are doing when Steph is off the ball, because you can just easily say, well, if that's your issue, don't put Steph on the ball and don't allow him to be doubled. What's happening when Steph is off the ball is they put their best defender, like Oklahoma City a couple of nights ago is a great example. Lou Dort, one of the best defenders in the NBA, simply face guarding Steph, denying him the basketball at all times. You grow up playing basketball, and what's the one phrase that you hear more than anything else on defense? See man and see ball, right? You can't lose the ball. The way teams are defending Steph when he's off ball is just see man. They are face guarding Steph. Their eyes are only on Steph. They're following him wherever he goes, even if it's out near half court, and they're not letting him get the basketball. And then when he gets the basketball, they're taking every opportunity they possibly can to double him and to trap him and to force him to pass the ball. And then they hope that they don't get caught off guard in another spot, and they hope that they can recover in time to, say, get to a GP2 who's standing wide open in the corner. Not that that's a terrible shot for the defense to give up, but you'd rather contest it than not. But defenses would rather give up an open GP2 3 than a single contest on a Steph Curry 3. That's the reality of the Warriors situation. So he specifically and the Warriors in general desperately need some help, and it seems the Warriors are very aware of that reality. Now we'll see what happens over the next 5+ days, as we are now 6 days minus 6 hours and 14 minutes from the trade deadline, because it's noon next Thursday, the NBA trade deadline. Of course, we'll take you up until that very second here on 95.7 The Game. Okay, Warriors and Suns getting set to do battle. It's Warriors Live here on 95.7 The Game. Again, as always, presented by Xfinity. At home or on the go, you'll get the fastest internet to all of your devices. Let's keep it going with our Take It to the Bank prediction. It's time for our Take It to the Bank prediction, brought to you by Fremont Bank. Full-service banking and no compromises. I was just talking about Steph Curry. I'm going to stick with him for our Take It to the Bank prediction. Again, brought to you by Fremont Bank. I'll go over 24.5 points for Steph Curry tonight. Steph in the past has said that he hears everything, that he's the petty king, right? And I would imagine he heard this. Kendrick Perkins on ESPN earlier today talking about Steph and the All-Star game. You're going to want to hear this. Here's Perkins on NBA Today via ESPN on Steph.
I look at a guy like Steph Curry making the All-Star game this season, and I look at a lot of guys like Kyrie Irving, Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox, just in this conference who had better seasons than or playing better than him. Look, I'm going to say the quiet thing out loud. Steph Curry should not be an All-Star. He shouldn't. Look, no matter what the fans want, no matter what the coaches want, no matter what we want, who we want to see, this still you have to earn to be an All-Star by your production. And if you're looking at the production around the league, it's guys in the Western Conference that have better numbers than Steph, and their teams are in better positions than Steph. So, I mean, what? Am I lying?
Okay, Perk, you might have a point in terms of who, quote-unquote, deserves it more for their performance based on this season alone. But you ask, are you lying? Yes, you are lying, because the NBA does not determine who plays or who starts in their All-Star game based on how good of a season that they had. I know the logic might suggest that, but that's not the way it works, at least not for legends. And Steph Curry is no doubt a legend. This is more of a career achievement award. It is also a weekend that is for the fans, and it is to celebrate the game of basketball. You do not have an entertainment-filled weekend without Stephen Curry, and you do not celebrate the game of basketball without Stephen Curry. So yes, Perk, you are wrong. Stephen Curry is deserving of an all-star bid because he's one of the 10 greatest players of all time. I only bring that up, again, because Steph has said on multiple occasions he sees, he hears, he reads everything. He's described himself as the petty king. He uses these things to motivate him, as most players on his level do. So as a result, I'll take Steph Curry responding to Kendrick Perkins tonight, and I'll take his over 24.5 points. And it isn't really a given right now. He hasn't scored 25 or more in any of his last 5 games. The last time he did it was 2 weeks ago when Jordan Poole and the Wizards were in town. And by the way, if this game is close down the stretch, as I think it probably will be, considering the Warriors only ever play in clutch games, I have the number here for you right now. The Warriors have played in 29 clutch games this year, and a clutch game is decided or determined by if a game is within 5 points or fewer in the final 5 minutes of regulation. And the Warriors have played 29 of those, tied for the most in the NBA this year. They're 15-14 in those 29 games. If this game is close, which the numbers suggest it will be, by the way, the Suns only a point and a half favorite over the Warriors tonight, which means Vegas thinks it's going to be highly competitive. If that is the case, I don't think Steve Kerr will have a ton of hesitation to maybe play Steph Curry a few more minutes than he normally does, because the Warriors, after tonight, do not play tomorrow, do not play Sunday. They have the full weekend at home off, and then they play on Monday when they welcome in the Orlando Magic. So the Warriors, 2 full days off, no travel ahead until after that game on Monday. So you got an opportunity to maybe, use a phrase that Steve has used in the past that got him into some trouble. You have a little bit of leeway to chase the win tonight, Steve, because you have the next 2 days off. All of that is the reason why I'm taking Steph over 24.5 points tonight. That, again, is our Take It to the Bank prediction, brought to you by Fremont Bank, full-service banking with no compromises. If you were listening earlier, Willard and Dibs, I was in for Dibs this week, but so Willard and myself, we gave you the news of the Warriors starting 5. It is the same starting 5 as Wednesday against Oklahoma City. Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, and Quentin Post. I think a lot of Warrior fans hoping for a change in terms of Buddy Hield in the starting lineup. The one thing that I will say is even if he's not making his shots, he is still spacing the floor. And given the Warriors' relative lack of shooters elsewhere, that is still a very, very valuable characteristic. Of course, you'd rather have Buddy Hield making his open threes, and maybe tonight is the night he breaks out of his 2-month-long slump. The Warriors would certainly welcome that. But even if he's not making his threes on a consistent level, he is still a floor spacer, and that creates more room and space for Steph Curry. It gives Andrew Wiggins a bit more room to try to drive and get into the paint. And, of course, it helps out Quentin Post a little bit as well. I'll be watching Quentin Post tonight in this one as well because he had, of course, a good 3 games in a row, especially the game against Chicago last week when he scored 20 points and made 5 threes. And then he got his first career start on Wednesday, played the first 6 minutes of the game, 2 more minutes in the second quarter, looked like a rookie and did not play the whole second half. Steve Kerr, though, sticking with him in the starting lineup. We'll see how he bounces back. I think the Oklahoma City matchup was a rough one for him because they put Jalen Williams, the third-year player out of Santa Clara, on him. They put a wing on him, and he could no longer put the ball on the floor, and he couldn't dribble at all. He couldn't get around his defender, and it kind of limited him, and he looked like a rookie should look, especially a 57th overall pick should look. So we'll see how he bounces back tonight. That's going to be a big part of this basketball game. The Suns, they got a lot of talent, but they're not the best team in terms of their bigs. So we'll see if Quentin Post can take advantage of that aspect of this game tonight. But again, the same starters, Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, and Quentin Post for the Warriors in this one tonight. Okay, Warriors Live here on 95.7 The Game. A few more minutes, and then I'll hand the baton over to Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert, who are standing by live in Chase Center. I will be running over to Chase Center the second I get off the air here, because I'll get you covered. I'll have you covered on Warriors wrap-up tonight after the game ends. We'll see if the Warriors can win their third consecutive game. Meanwhile, our out-of-town NBA Game of the Night is sponsored by the San Francisco International Airport. Wherever your team goes, you can get there from SFO. There are only 7 games around the association tonight, including Bucks and Spurs from San Antonio. The Bucks have shaken off a bit of a slow start this year and are now 26-19 on the season, 4th in the Eastern Conference. The Spurs, meanwhile, 20-24 for 12th in the West, and they're 2.5 games behind the Warriors for 11th. That logjam in the West right now kind of ends with that 11th spot. The Spurs are within striking distance, but 4 games under. They are really in the group that is much further away, and they're going to need to string together some wins if they are able to put themselves back into play-in or postseason contention. Anyway, you might be thinking, a 20-24 team, how is this the game of the night? Well, it's pretty simple for me. It's Giannis and it's Wemby. This is must-see TV, and we only get to see it a couple of times a year if we're lucky, if those two are both healthy when they play each other. And it's been awesome so far. This game is already underway in San Antonio. It's halftime right now, and it's 71-70. Milwaukee. How about that high-scoring basketball game? Milwaukee 71, San Antonio 70 at halftime. Wembanyama has 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks. Giannis, meanwhile, 21 points and 9 rebounds in the first half alone. So those two big men are going at it right now, and it is the Bucks with a 1-point lead. Anyway, of course, it's much too late to get to San Antonio for this game, but SFO can get you down to the Alamo City anytime you want, and maybe you want to plan a trip there when the Warriors are in town. You can do that on March 30th, the Warriors' second and final visit to San Antonio this regular season. SFO can help get you there for that matchup, and who knows, maybe another matchup in the playoffs or the play-in. And that is our out-of-town NBA Game of the Night, sponsored by the San Francisco International Airport. Wherever your team goes, you can get there from SFO. And this has been Warriors Live, presented by Xfinity. At home or on the go, you'll get the fastest internet to all of your devices. Warriors basketball next on 95.7 The Game.